really be lying? When y'all really be lying? Is when y'all whooping us. Talking about, I'm whooping you, cause I love.
My boy went to college, like, you know what I mean? He went and did something else, like. And like, it's so crazy because of what he did in his childhood, people are frowned like, what are you doing in?
Remember Lil JJ, that 11-year-old kid from Little Rock, Arkansas, who stormed a BET stage and outshined grown comedians like it was nothing? The truth behind why he disappeared will shock you. Within just 2 years, Nickelodeon gave him his own sitcom. But by 2008, he had completely vanished from Hollywood's spotlight. When the Quiet on Set documentary dropped in 2024, Lil JJ finally broke his silence, with just 4 words that flipped his whole story upside down. So what really happened to the boy, wonder everyone thought was headed straight for superstardom? Let's rewind. October 31st, 1990, Halloween night in Little Rock, Arkansas. James Charles Lewis II was born with a natural gift that would both make him and break him. As the oldest of 4 kids, little James quickly learned he could spark real laughter. Not those polite, fake chuckles adults give kids, but genuine rolling laughter that left people in shock. But this wasn't kiddie humor. It was real, gut-busting comedy that left grown folks stunned. By just 8 years old, James was already rocking local talent shows, church programs, and family events. His parents knew their boy was different, but they never imagined how dangerous that gift could get. While other kids spent hours on video games, James was sharpening routines that made adults forget about bills, stress, and all their problems. The Lewis home turned into a live stage, with dinner tables becoming his comedy lab. James tested every new joke on his 3 younger siblings, who became his first audience. Even his teachers couldn't ignore it. At school, show and tell, while most kids mumbled through boring speeches, James lit up the room with pure entertainment. James dropped razor-sharp jokes about school life that had kids crying with laughter and teachers trying to hide their smiles. By 4th grade, he wasn't just the class clown. He was a comedy prodigy. But unlike the usual troublemakers, his humor wasn't disruptive or cruel. It was smart, sharp, and always uplifting. James had a rare gift. He could flip any moment into something funny without ever tearing anyone down. At 9 years old, he stepped on stage at a local talent show. So small he needed a box just to reach the mic. The crowd expected cutesy kid stuff. But instead, James unleashed a polished 5-minute set, breaking down the wild gap between how kids see life and how adults do. And the audience went crazy. The jokes were fresh, the timing flawless, and the crowd's reaction was electric. Soon word spread all over Little Rock's small entertainment scene about this elementary school kid who performed like he'd been grinding stages for decades. Local comedy clubs couldn't believe it, and they started inviting James to step up. At first, his parents were cautious, but James refused to back down. Eventually, they gave in and let him hit a family-friendly showcase. That night became a turning point. In front of over 200 people, mostly grown folks ready for seasoned local acts, James walked out and owned the stage. What they got wasn't a nervous kid fumbling lines, but a 10-year-old commanding the room like a true pro. His jokes were not only age-appropriate, but downright hilarious. The crowd gave him a standing ovation that went on for 5 whole minutes. Comedy club owners rushed his parents right after the show, begging to lock James in for regular bookings. Overnight, James Charles Lewis III had turned into a hometown star. Then came 2003. James was only 11 when his family heard about BET's Coming to the Stage, a national talent search for the next wave of comedians. James taped his audition right inside their modest Arkansas home. No studio lights, no big shot coach, just raw, unfiltered talent captured on a cheap camera. The call came on a random Tuesday afternoon. Bet wanted James in Los Angeles for the live competition. His family scrambled, maxing out credit cards just to get their boy to California, chasing a dream that felt bigger than life itself.
Y'all really be lying? Is when y'all whooping us. Talking about, I'm whooping you, cause I love you.
Backstage at the BET studios, James stood shoulder to shoulder with grown comedians carrying years of experience. Most kids would have cracked under that pressure, but not him. When his name got called, he walked out like he was born for that stage, moving with the confidence of a pro who already belonged. Then he did the unthinkable. James demolished the competition. His jokes were fresh, his timing was flawless, and his presence demanded the spotlight. Even veteran comedians who'd been grinding for decades sat in shock, watching this tiny kid from Arkansas take full control of the room like a master entertainer. When the judges announced James Charles Lewis II as the winner of Coming to the Stage, they weren't just crowning some kid comedian. They were unleashing a storm into an industry that had zero clue how to protect him. That victory didn't just open doors, it blasted them wide open, giving James access to opportunities most grown comics never even dream of. Within months of his BET triumph, the phone at the Lewis household in Arkansas wouldn't stop ringing. Talent agents from across the country wanted a piece of the miracle kid who could make crowds laugh until they cried. At first, the offers were small, but they quickly exploded. Comedy clubs booked James for weekend shows, proudly billing him as the youngest professional comedian in America. Regional TV stations lined up for interviews. Comedy festivals bent their own rules just to showcase the boy wonder from Arkansas. But the real storm came when Hollywood scouts started flying in. They pulled up in shiny rental cars, dressed in expensive suits, all for one reason: to watch James light up the stage. These reps came armed with contracts, dangling promises of wealth the Lewis family had never even imagined. They painted vivid pictures of James starring in blockbuster movies, hosting TV shows, his face on merchandise, and deals that could lock in generational wealth forever. The money they mentioned was jaw-dropping for a working-class family from Arkansas. And through it all, James never wavered. He insisted his destiny was in entertainment, and every extra day stuck in Arkansas felt like another day stolen from his future.
What's up? It's a little man with big jokes. Let's meet 12-year-old Lil JJ.
Hey, I'm Lil JJ from Little Rock, Arkansas. And the reason why I think I'm gonna win is because I'm the hardest working young man in the show.
James begged his parents to let him chase the opportunities flooding in. And by late 2004, the Lewis family made the life-changing move. They packed everything they owned and left Arkansas behind for Los Angeles. The shift was brutal. Back home meant safety and comfort. But LA was a whole different beast. The competition was cutthroat, the cost of living was sky high, and the entertainment world came with hidden rules no one cared to explain to newcomers. At just 14 years old, James stepped into this chaos with a new identity, performing under the stage name Lil JJ. And right away, he dove headfirst into auditions, determined to prove he could survive in Hollywood's unforgiving jungle. His stand-up background gave him a serious edge over the usual child actors, but it also made him stand out in ways Hollywood didn't always know how to handle. While other kids focused on memorizing stiff scripts, Lil JJ improvised with style, adding his own punch and flavor to every role. Nickelodeon couldn't ignore it. Their once iconic sketch show all that was slipping in ratings, and executives were desperate to bring back that magic. They believed fresh blood could save the network. So, in early 2005, Lil JJ auditioned for All That, battling against dozens of young hopefuls. But when it came time for his final audition, something just clicked. Years of live comedy sharpened his instincts, and his energy fit sketch comedy like a glove. The execs weren't just impressed by his talent. They were blown away by his grind, his discipline, and his ability to deliver like a seasoned pro. Nickelodeon locked him in for the 10th season of All That, giving him the spotlight on the iconic Vital Information segment. That single move catapulted Lil JJ from a local prodigy to a nationally recognized TV star, with millions tuning in every week to watch his sharp timing and natural charisma light up the screen. Kids loved him instantly, while parents praised his clean, family-friendly humor. But behind the bright lights, Lil JJ was stepping into the cold machine of children's television, a world run by adults who didn't see kids as kids at all, but as products to market, package, and control. The schedule was brutal, leaving almost no room for normal teenage life. The pressure to always be funny, charming, and marketable never let up. But somehow, Lil JJ thrived under it. His segments weren't just good, they were the highlight of the show, pulling in ratings and research numbers that proved audiences were tuning in specifically for him. Nickelodeon saw dollar signs all over their rising star and started plotting something bigger. Then came the bombshell. They offered him what no kid his age had ever been handed, his very own sitcom. On January 7th, 2007, Just Jordan premiered, instantly beating Nickelodeon's expectations. The show told the story of Jordan Lewis, a 16-year-old moving from Arkansas to Los Angeles to live with his grandfather and work in the family diner, a script that mirrored JJ's real-life journey almost too perfectly. The whole premise pulled straight from Lil JJ's real life, giving the sitcom an authenticity that hit home. For a 17-year-old star, landing his own series wasn't just a gig. It was the ultimate validation that he had officially made it. Lil JJ was no longer just the funny kid on a sketch show. He was the lead, the face on the poster, the reason people tuned in every week. The first season rolled out with 13 episodes that set the tone and built the world around him, with a supporting cast that included his on-screen younger sister, Monica. The show introduced his strict mother, his tough but loving grandfather, and his best friends Joaquin and Tony. The writing struck a balance, mixing comedy with real emotional beats that connected with both kids and parents. Critics praised the series for capturing teenage life in a way that actually felt authentic, and Lil JJ's natural performance stood out from the start. Unlike many child stars who sounded like they were just parroting lines, Lil JJ delivered raw emotion and believable reactions that made his character come alive. And unlike the usual cookie-cutter Nickelodeon projects, Just Jordan had powerhouse backing, produced by Ralph Farquhar, a respected Black producer behind classics like Moshe, The Parkers, and The Proud Family. Having a respected producer gave Lil JJ some shield from the worst of Hollywood's toxic sets, but it didn't erase the crushing weight he carried. As the star, everything rested on his shoulders. If he delivered, dozens of cast and crew kept their jobs. If he slipped, the whole show was at risk. The demand to always be funny, charming, and constantly promoting the series was exhausting for a teenager. In September 2007, Just Jordan returned for its second season, this time filmed in front of a live studio audience. The energy was higher, but so was the pressure. Storylines got more ambitious, forcing Lil JJ to dig deeper and prove he wasn't just a kid comedian, he was a real performer with range. Critics kept praising Just Jordan, and ratings stayed solid. Network execs were even cautiously mapping out potential storylines for a third season. It looked like the future was bright. But then disaster hit. On November 5th, 2007, the Writers Guild of America strike erupted, shutting down nearly every scripted TV show in Hollywood. Just Jordan was no exception. The episodes already filmed kept airing, but the strike froze production cold. No new content, no fresh storylines, and no clear path forward for Nickelodeon's rising star. For big, established shows with loyal fan bases, the writer's strike was just a setback. But for newer programs still trying to build their audience, it was a death sentence. Just Jordan lost all its momentum during the 100-day shutdown, and by the time the strike finally ended on February 12, 2008, the damage was already done. When new episodes returned, the spark was gone. The show struggled to claw back its audience, but viewers who had drifted to other programs during the long break didn't come rushing back. Nickelodeon executives, strapped by budgets and shaky ratings, made a cold business call. They pulled the plug. Despite 2 full seasons, 29 episodes, solid reviews, and Lil JJ's non-stop dedication, Just Jordan was canceled. The final episode aired on August 23, 2008, leaving Lil JJ, just 18 years old, legally grown but emotionally crushed, mourning the loss of the platform that had defined his teenage years. But the bigger blow came after. Hollywood didn't come calling. Usually, canceled shows lead to fresh opportunities for rising talent. Agents push their clients, casting directors remember standout performances, and careers keep moving. But for Lil JJ, the silence was deafening. Nothing came next. For Lil JJ, life after Just Jordan's cancellation turned hauntingly quiet. The calls from casting directors stopped overnight, auditions grew rare, and projects that once looked solid suddenly stalled or went forward with other actors. The same kid who had been Nickelodeon's shining star just months earlier was now treated like he didn't exist, blacklisted from the very industry he helped light up. He had conquered as a child, yet no one ever explained why his career was frozen in its tracks. The reasons for Hollywood's sudden shutdown on Lil JJ remain a mystery to this day.
A post by Jay Lewis, aka Lil JJ. He posted on Facebook, "Just Jordan got canceled. I ain't giving up no ass."
Industry whispers tried to explain the blackout. Some claimed Lil JJ had gotten difficult on set, though nobody could point to real examples. Others argued he'd aged out, too old for kiddie shows but too young for grown-up roles. But the truth ran deeper. Lil JJ had stormed into the industry as a prodigy, a kid whose natural brilliance made a lot of adults uneasy. He wasn't built to be a puppet. He never liked just following orders or repeating lines exactly as written. His comedy roots trained him to think outside the box, trust his instincts, and push boundaries, a trait Hollywood didn't always want from a teenager. In an industry obsessed with control, Lil JJ's independence was seen as dangerous. Child stars were expected to smile, stay quiet, and do as they were told, no questions asked. They were supposed to take whatever roles came their way and never challenge the adults pulling the strings. But Lil JJ refused to fit that mold. Even as a teenager, he had real opinions about his characters, fresh ideas for scripts, and bold suggestions for how scenes should play out. What should have been celebrated as creativity got twisted into attitude. Hollywood didn't reward his spark. Instead, the industry came down fast and ruthless, shutting him out like he was a problem to erase. If Lil JJ wasn't going to play the role of a compliant child star, then Hollywood decided he wouldn't be a star at all. Exiled from the industry, he made choices that may have saved his mental health, but cost him even more career momentum. He enrolled at Arkansas Baptist College, putting his focus on education instead of chasing auditions. He pledged Omega Psi Phi, building brotherhood and connections outside of showbiz. At the same time, he started speaking openly about life as a child performer. The non-stop pressure of carrying a TV show, the pain of growing up under the public eye, and the brutal challenge of shifting from kid star to adult actor. His raw honesty may have been healthy for him, but it painted a target on his back. By speaking out about how Hollywood treated kids, Lil JJ became someone the industry feared, a young star who might expose the ugly truths behind the curtain. The response was brutal silence. His career stayed frozen, his talent wasted, his potential left hanging. Yet he refused to fade away. For over a decade, Lil JJ wandered through Hollywood's wilderness, grabbing small roles when they came, popping up on reality shows like Wild 'N Out, and keeping his stand-up alive in clubs across the country. He was surviving, but nowhere near thriving. March 2024 flipped the script completely. Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV premiered on Investigation Discovery, ripping the mask off Nickelodeon and exposing decades of abuse, exploitation, and pure dysfunction. The revelations were so shocking that even Hollywood veterans were left stunned. Dan Schneider, the powerhouse behind shows like All That and Drake and Josh, was exposed for creating toxic environments and engaging in disturbing behavior with young performers. Former child stars lined up to share their horror stories, and Drake Bell dropped one of the darkest truths of all, revealing he was abused by Nickelodeon dialogue coach Brian Peck, starting when he was just 15 years old. As the documentary blew up nationwide, the spotlight turned to other forgotten Nickelodeon stars. People asked, what really happened to Amanda Bynes? Where was Jeanette McCurdy? And what about Lil JJ? The kid who once looked unstoppable before Just Jordan suddenly vanished after cancellation. On social media, his name started trending. Fans and survivors tagged him in posts, begging him to speak out and share his truth. They wanted confirmation, validation, answers. The unspoken message was loud and clear. If Lil JJ worked inside Nickelodeon during that era, then surely he saw, or maybe even experienced, the same abuse others were bravely exposing. The pressure on Lil JJ to respond reached a breaking point. With the assumption that every Nickelodeon child star was automatically a victim, people like him were trapped. Either claim abuse they never lived through, or risk looking cold and unsympathetic toward the real survivors. The weight was crushing, and the internet wouldn't let up. Finally, on March 20th, 2024, Lil JJ broke his silence. He posted on Facebook, and within minutes, screenshots spread across every social platform. His message was just 4 words, and they left everyone stunned. The blunt phrasing stunned fans who remembered him as a polished, clean-cut kid star. But his point was crystal clear. Lil JJ was declaring that he had not been sexually abused during his Nickelodeon years. It was his way of pushing back against the heavy assumption that every former child star had to be a victim. The internet reaction was instant and split right down the middle. Some applauded him for standing firm and refusing to be pressured into a story that wasn't his. Others slammed his wording as crude and accused him of being dismissive toward survivors who had suffered for real. But Lil JJ's statement revealed something far deeper than just a denial of abuse. It was a bold declaration of independence. He was rejecting the narrative that every child performer was a helpless victim, making it clear that some young stars managed to survive Hollywood without being shattered by it. Even more shocking, his words finally explained the career exile nobody understood. Lil JJ didn't vanish because he'd been abused. He vanished because he refused to be controlled. His independence, his refusal to play the victim, and his unwillingness to bend to the system made him unemployable in an industry that thrived on obedience. Hollywood hadn't destroyed Lil JJ through abuse. It had frozen him out because he wouldn't submit. They didn't break him with abuse. They destroyed him with silence, systematic exclusion, deliberate neglect, and the quiet assassination of a career that refused to bow down. Hollywood took one of the most gifted young performers of his generation and erased him from relevance, all because he refused to play by their rules. His raw, unfiltered response exposed a darker truth. The industry's control over child stars was far more sophisticated than most people ever imagined. They didn't have to abuse every kid to keep power. All they had to do was publicly crush a few rebellious careers, turning them into warnings for every other young performer daring to resist. Lil JJ had been turned into an example, proof of what happens to child stars who dare to hold on to their independence in Hollywood. But by speaking his truth, he scored a victory the industry never saw coming. They might have shut down his career, but they could never shut down his voice. In many ways, that was an even harsher indictment of how Hollywood chews up its young stars and spits them out. What do you think about Lil JJ's story? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're checking every single one. Smash that like, hit subscribe to the Lana Sip channel, and don't miss the next breakdown. It's only getting wilder.